Hey, this is Paul Lathrop from the Polite Society Podcast, reminding you that this podcast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the other great podcasts on the network at selfdefenseradio.net.
Welcome to Unload and Show Clear, the podcast about all things IDPA. And now, here's your host, the high-functioning marksman, Lloyd Bailey.
Welcome to another episode of Unload and Show Clear, where we counter the media's negative image of gun culture by introducing you to the amazing men and women who are involved in IDPA, International Defensive Pistol Association. We're focusing on people, not politics. The everyday people from all walks of life, men and women who volunteer their time and effort, who spend their hard-earned dollars on travel, match fees, and gear to make this sport great. They're your doctors. They clean your teeth. They're fixing your houses, taking care of your pets. They fix your computers and pilot your planes, and they protect our streets and our nation. They are gun culture at its finest, and it's misunderstood or completely unknown to the mainstream media. Today, I'm going to introduce you to another one of these awesome people. But first, I want to thank today's sponsor. I found my friends Dave and Reagan Williams at Salina Gun Shop when I needed an FFL transfer for a firearm. Several years ago, they were just a tabletop FFL. Well, since that time, they have grown into a one-stop shop for guns, ammo, accessories, gunsmithing, custom engraving, and they are a certified Cerakote applicator. Whether it's a custom build, engraving, or Cerakote, no matter how mild or how wild you want your firearm, no matter what you need, they can handle it. Now, I've taken them older guns that have bad and scratched up finishes. Salina Gun Shop made them look like new. When my wife wanted her own Glock 19, I had Salina Gun Shop Cerakote the frame to just the right color that she wanted. I've had them install new sights on my guns, do repairs and trigger work on my revolvers. I trust them with my guns, and you can too. I cannot recommend them highly enough. Check them out today at salinagunshop.com. That's CELINA gunshop.com. Look for a link in the show notes to get to their website. Or if you're here in North Texas, stop by and visit them in person at 701 North Preston Road, Suite 310 in Salina, Texas. salinagunshop.com. Small town store, big town service. salinagunshop.com. Our special guest today is Francisco Balacazar from Kenosha, Wisconsin. Francisco, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Well, we met at the Illinois State IDPA Championship. You and one of your friends were sitting there all decked out in your Cross Timbers IDPA shooting shirts, and I went up and introduced myself and said, "Fellow Texans," and then embarrassed myself because you guys were from Illinois. So you are one of our adopted Texans. Tell us a little about yourself. Tell us what you do. You're newly from Kenosha or moved to Kenosha. You're from Illinois, and you work in Libertyville. Tell us a little about what you do there.
So I'm an electrical engineer. I work for a company called Analog Process Instruments. They make gauges, pressure gauges, and other analog instruments in Libertyville, Illinois.
You're not originally from Illinois, though, right?
No, I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. I was born there, and I was back and forth actually from there in Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And then when I was 13, I moved out to Illinois because my mom remarried. So she's like, "You're the youngest one. You got to come with me." So I didn't have a choice.
Now, wow, you didn't mention the Mexico thing when we met. So you have lived in 3 of the most restrictive places in the world for guns, or at least in North America. How in the world did you get interested in guns and competitive shooting? Surely you didn't grow up around them, or were you taught about hunting, or how did you get involved? How did you get interested?
So I've always been into guns since I was little. A part of that, I feel like it's I would say the LA culture.
Right.
And another part of it would be Mexico. So when I was in Mexico, we were in a rural town over there. So it's pretty much cowboys type stuff, leather holsters, 1911s. You're not supposed to have them, but, people have them,
Right.
especially if you live out there. So growing up, seeing all of them have it just kind of always gave me that interest. And, I never really owned one until 2014.
Oh, wow.
I was about 27, so I finally got to own one.
And what did you go out and buy?
So I bought a CZ SP01 Tactical, my very first gun.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And that's actually the gun that I compete with.
Nice.
So I Cajunized it, and I use that now to compete. And the funny thing about how I got that gun was, so we went in 2014. We went out to Vegas for one of my best friends' bachelor party. I was throwing him a bachelor party, so we said, let's go to Vegas. And, a lot of our friends and my older brother, we all met there. And our last day there, we're like, let's hit the gun range. And my brother mentioned that ARs are pretty much Lego for adults. So that kind of struck an interest right there, especially after shooting. So I did my research. I'm a person that I like to do a lot of research before I get involved into anything because I want to know everything about it. So I did a lot of research in terms of what I need to buy, what's good for an AR-15, and I started buying the lower and everything. And then I did my research on the handgun, on what I wanted to buy. Because I didn't just want to buy just anything.
Right.
So a lot of people are into Glocks and a lot of people are into 1911s. But then my research online, and the one that kept popping up the most was a CZ, the SP01.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of precision, reliability, and I remember I went into work and I told my coworker, I said, "Hey, I think I know what gun I'm gonna buy." And he got tired of hearing the same thing like every day. So he's like, "You know what? Stop talking about it. Be about it." So, when he said that, it kind of clicked in my mind. Like, you know what? You're right. So I got home and I purchased it online. And 3 days later, I went to go pick it up after I did the paperwork.
So what happened in Vegas didn't stay in Vegas. You got hooked on guns in Vegas and took that interest home with you and ordered a gun sight unseen. Had you ever actually put your hands on one of them before that?
Oh yeah. Especially in Mexico. I remember the first time that I was taught shooting, like to shoot. My grandma had old 22 short. Not sure the model of it, but it kind of resembled like a Walther PPK.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I asked her, I was about 8, if she could talk to my grandpa about teaching me how to shoot. So she talked to him, and she had him take me to a berm outside in our land. So he took about 5 Coke bottles, the glass ones, and he set them up. And then he's like, "You see that notch in the back?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, you see the front post?" I said, "Yes." Line them up, pull the trigger, and that's it. So, I'm a little kid, and it's a 22, so there's no recoil.
Right.
And I do just that a lot. I line up the notches with the front post, and I hit the first bottle, move on to the next one, hit the next bottle. I get to the 4th bottle, and I'm about to go to the 5th bottle, and he takes the gun out of my hand. I'm like, "Wait, what?" He's like, "You know how to shoot." I'm like, "Okay, but there's more bottles." He's like, "No." He's like, "Ammo's expensive." He's like, "You're done. You hit 4 for 4. Like, that's good." So, but the difference between here and there is the fact that, in terms of gun safety, there's really none.
Mm.
Like, all the gun safety rules and everything doesn't really apply over there. So
I guess when the whole country is, a gun-free zone, quote unquote, and the government technically doesn't allow you to have them, it's hard to learn gun safety at a grassroots level. The fact that you actually got a chance to shoot at a young age is, I guess, pretty amazing considering where you started out.
Yeah, yes, definitely. I was pretty lucky. And so over here, before I actually committed to the CZ, somebody at a local gun shop suggested that I go to a gun range and rent out different guns and see how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I did just that. So I tried many different styles and models, and nothing really felt pretty good, except that at the local gun range in Waukegan, Caliber Gun Range, at the time there was a partner there, part owner of Caliber named Chick Barufi. And with one of the rentals, I brought the target back, and he was walking by, and he's like, not too bad of a group. He's like, "What did you have, at 12 feet? So, "No, sir, that was 40 feet. He's like, "Oh, actually, that's actually not that bad." He's like, "Okay." So he took out his gun, which was actually the CZ.
Mm-hmm.
So he had a CZ Tactical,
and
he let me shoot that. And I was like, wow, this actually is amazing. And then, he went and did other things, meet with other people. And then somebody that worked there approached me, and he's like, "Do you know Chick?" I'm like, "No, sir, I just met him right now." He's like, "Man, he likes you a lot then, because he's like, he doesn't just let anybody shoot his gun." So I felt honored, and that just solidified me buying that CZ.
How did you get interested in competitive shooting? Where did you, according to your bio, you joined IDPA in 2018. So you've been shooting a little over a year now. Where did you hear about IDPA? How did you get involved?
So I got involved because interesting enough, so Chick, the same guy I was talking about earlier, he kind of taught me how to shoot. He was a combat engineer for the Marine Corps. So he really impressed me when he put 2 rounds in the same hole. So he started showing me how to shoot, trigger control, sight pictures, sight alignment, breathing, and I was doing just that. He wanted me to get involved into bullseye shooting, and one time they had a class there, a tactical class, and it was I became really good friends with Andrew Browning, the special forces guy that was there. He was teaching the class, and so I would kind of meet up with him, once in a while, and he would teach me different tactics like shooting on the move. And the funny thing about it is, like, in my mind, I figured that it's easy. I'm like, I can shoot on the move for sure. And then when it actually came down to it, I wasn't moving at all. In my mind, I felt I was moving, but no, I wasn't. I'll take a step, stop, shoot. Take a step, stop, shoot. So eventually, continued taking classes with him, and he got me shooting on the move. He got me comfortable shooting, rapid fire. And then one of the other persons that was there that was taking the class, he said, he's like, wow, you're actually pretty good at this. He's like, you should do competitive shooting. So you should do IDPA. So that person kind of put that thought in my mind, like, I want to do it. But I was very skeptical because I didn't know the rules. I didn't know what equipment I needed. So I'm not gonna lie, I was intimidated, especially, as a Hispanic kid and all that. And, I just didn't know.
Right.
But I met a guy named Merrick, and he was a safety officer. So through work, he's like, when I was at the time working partially for Canon, he's like, hey, listen, I'd like to shoot as well. He's like, I do IDPA. And I was like, oh, no way. I'm like, they've been telling me that I should do it, but I'm kind of skeptical. He's like, well, there's a local match. He's like, you should come. He's like, I'll squad you with me and I'll guide you through the rules. So I did just that. And that's where I actually met Andrew Aguinaldo,
right?
My friend that you saw us at the Illinois state match. That's where I met him. We were both new shooters. So we both shot it, and we were still above the 50th percentile from the local shooters that were there. So it kind of installed the bug.
Right.
I'm like, wow, this is awesome. This is awesome. Like, I'm not just standing there shooting at a target. This is totally different. And that pretty much all she wrote. Started getting different.
You were hooked.
equipment. Yeah, pretty much. Doing trial and error on what equipment worked, what didn't work. I remember I had a regular holster, and then I ended up buying a speed holster because actually Andrew Aguinaldo beat me on a draw. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, you got a Countech holster? So I'm like, no, I'm about to buy one too. So, we're both very competitive, and we help each other out. And pretty much, I took a pause for a minute, and he kind of kept going at it, and he achieved master. So he kind of got at me, I'm like, you got to step it up, son. And I'm like, okay, I got you. Started practicing, and just got even more involved in it, started dry firing and everything. And I had fun. Definitely had a lot of fun with Wisconsin and Illinois this year.
Nice. Well, now I mentioned mistaking you for Texans thanks to your shooting shirts. Tell everybody how you ended up in Texas and how you ended up with those shirts, and tell us about that experience.
So how I ended up in Texas was because me and Andrew Aguinaldo did about 3 or 4 local competitions for IDPA, and we found out about the Wisconsin state, and we both signed up after the fact, and they happened to have room. Fortunately, I made a typo about my classification, and I brought it up at the registration table. I'm like, hey, listen, there's a typo. And, the lady at the front at the registration was like, don't worry about it. We'll get it fixed. We'll put marksman. So I didn't think anything of it. Shot the whole thing. And at the end of the day, I saw it didn't fix it. So I emailed the match director, and they fixed it the next day. So, it said that I took 3rd in marksman. I was happy with SSP marksman 3rd place. I'm like, not too bad. I'm like, okay, cool. And then when it came to sending the plaques, I never got my plaque. So I emailed them again, and he was like, oh, I'm sorry, I had to revert it back because it was after the fact. I was kind of ticked off, I'm like, damn it. So I worked to get that, and I didn't get it. So I'm like, I called Andrew, and I told him, hey, let's do out-of-state one. Let's go to Texas. They have one in October. And to my surprise, he's like, yeah, let's do it. He's like, my girlfriend has friends out there. She just said yes. So that's all she wrote pretty much. Next thing you know, we booked an Airbnb. We got the plane ticket, rented the car, and we were pretty much set to go to Texas. So we get there, and I mean, the people is just awesome. I'll say like the only downside of Texas was it poured. Like, it didn't rain. It poured.
You picked a bad year to do it.
Yeah, I didn't know. I'm like, and by the way, we weren't prepared at all. Like, when we shot Wisconsin, we both damn near got heat stroke because we didn't take a cart, we didn't take chairs, we didn't take anything but our range back on our back. And last year in Wisconsin, it was humid and hot. So we figured we prepared for heat in Texas. So we took shorts, we took light shirt. This time we bought a cart, and to our surprise, it was the opposite. It was pouring. It was cold. I was like, oh, man. So, it's just another notch for experience. But like I said, it actually wasn't too bad. It was the people that stayed, because a lot of people left. But the people that stayed, they were great. The whole event was still, it was awesome. And it was a great experience. What
have you got planned for the rest of the year? What's your schedule like? Or what are you thinking you might do match-wise?
Definitely keep dry firing practice. What I love about the new place is that it has a lot of yards, so I can really kind of set up a small stage to practice movement. I'm going to be doing a lot of local matches. I joined a gun club, Schultz, out in Muskego, and going to do a lot of practice there. They have some local matches there as well. So just gain as much practice as possible for the next state championships. I definitely want to do more of them next year for sure. So you'll see me and Andrew Ginaldo around with the cross timber shirts.
I'll look for the adopted Texans next time I'm up that direction, and hopefully you won't hold that Texas match. I guess that was the Lone Star, right? That was yeah. So don't hold that against us, because a lot of Texans didn't like it either, and they didn't stay. So hopefully you'll come back.
No, I'm definitely going back. I gotta redeem myself there too. I gotta try to take first place there as well.
All right.
What made it up was the state fair. They had the state fair on the same weekend, so pretty much the next day we had the state fair, ate nothing but turkey legs, beer, drank beer and ate steaks. It's a good way to end it.
Right, everything fried.
Definitely. The weirdest thing is that, we met somebody there, and they were like, "Oh my God, you have to try fried butter." I looked at them like, "What? What?
Welcome to Texas. If you can eat it, we'll fry it."
I was like, "Wow."
Yep. As a non-Texas native, I moved here about 5 years ago from North Carolina. And so, that was sort of my response to the first state fair I went to. It's like, holy crap, is there anything that they won't fry? And the answer to that is no. All right. So have you heard this segment that I like to call Pick Your Poison? Where basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you a few questions, and you got to get, they're either or answers, and you got to tell me which one of the two you prefer and why. So here we go. I like to ask this one first off because I get lots of different answers, surprising answers, and I like to hear the rationale that people come up with for their answer on this one. You're at a state level match like at Illinois or at the Lone Star or at Wisconsin, and there's a standard stage. And would you prefer to shoot standards the very first stage of the day for you or the very last stage?
To be honest, I don't really have a preference. And the reason for that is because I shoot every stage the same in terms of mentality, preparedness. Mm-hmm. I don't like to treat different stages differently,
Right.
I kind of took that from Steve Anderson, in terms of always be prepared and shoot each match, all of them the same. So, whether they put it first or last, I'm focused. I'm thinking what I need to do. I'm playing it in my mind to execute.
Gotcha. Okay. So you love the CZ75 SP01. You're shooting SSP with that. You could also shoot it in ESP as well. If you couldn't shoot either of those two divisions and you had to choose one of the others to shoot for the entire year, which one would it be?
I say carry optics. Yeah, I don't know. It's I just recently bought an optic, Fujicon Type 2 RMR, and it's totally different. I put that on the CZ, the P10F, and you can see the minute you make a mistake, you push a shot or anything, it's obvious in an instant.
Yep.
So I would shoot carry optics to kind of, in order for me to see any mistakes that I'm doing, because I feel like if I can spot them, like, visually, the way that doing optics tells you, like, shows you, then I feel when I go back to iron, it would just make me a better shooter.
Right. You've seen both of these extremes. You saw the horrible, hot, muggy weather at Wisconsin last year, and then you came to Texas and froze to death. If you had your choice of the two, hot or cold, which would you prefer?
It depends. If it's hot and humid, I take the cold. I can layer up. But I can't take clothes off, because then there's cops are shooting. They will arrest me for indecent exposure. So I'll take the cold.
That's right.
They'll look at it and be like, "Hey, no kegs allowed."
That's right. And there's only so much you can take off, right? Because there's usually one garment that they require you to wear. Would you prefer you're presented, I know you approach every stage and everything sort of, you try to approach them the same way, so you try not to have, preferences or things that you like one way or another, but there's got to be, when you come up to a stage where you've got moving targets, that's generally something that gives a lot of shooters, especially we who are in the marksman sharpshooter class in that neighborhood and everything below expert, generally moving targets give you some pause. Would you prefer to see moving targets where you've got the threat target swinging in front of non-threats, or the non-threat swinging in front of threat targets?
That's interesting, because I've seen both of them.
Yep.
Both, all the time, and it's.
And I've shot the non-threats on both. So.
Well, it's a tough one. I mean, I would say, if I would have to pick one, I'd probably say the non-threat in front of the moving target. I feel like if I'm able to see the non-threat, then it kind of lets me know where I have to, in a way, pause, right? So I don't shoot it. It kind of gives me hey, remember, I'm right here.
Right.
Versus kind of focusing on the swinging target and the non-threat is behind it. I'm kind of focused on shooting the swinger, and then next thing you know, I shot it right when it's behind the non-threat.
Right.
So I feel like if I had to pick one, I'll do it that way. That way, I'm aware of where, I guess, the hostage, right? I'm aware of where the hostage is.
Right. Now, you talked about learning to shoot on the move, and we just talked about shooting moving targets. Those are two very distinctive skills, and skills that particularly new IDPA shooters tend to struggle to master. They're very difficult, but it's not intuitive. Would you prefer? Would you prefer to be shooting while you're moving, or would you prefer that the targets be moving? Do you like shooting moving targets? Or do you prefer you moving and running around a lot?
Well, in terms of trying to keep your time down, I definitely pick moving, shooting on the move. That way you can come into a position and leave into a position. Just saves time. So I would definitely go with that. It is hard, especially when I was learning with Andrew Browning. Pretty much the mentality, what he told me was, hey, walking like a duck. You squat down and you're taking small steps. And I remember when I was learning it, he was like, because I had a hard time moving, right? He was like, left, right, to get my brain to kind of like, okay, move those legs. But no, with practice, it became easier. I know one of the drills that I was doing was putting a dime on my front post and, squeezing the trigger so it doesn't move and kind of walking slow. Another thing that you could do is, and I actually saw this on YouTube, there was a little girl, a competitive shooter, who was talking about shooting on the move, where she takes a water bottle, puts a mark on the water bottle, and she just walks and makes sure that the water stays level. That's pretty good.
Oh.
training aid right there.
You've seen probably these stages where I like to call them the hold my beer stage, where you come to a point of cover and you have a steel activator, a popper that activates a disappearing target, either a drop turner or one of these peekaboo targets that pops in and out. But you could engage paper, so you've got maybe one or two other paper targets that you could engage before the disappearing target. Like shoot the steel, shoot the paper, then go back to the moving target. Some shooters like to play it safe. Others will take that chance. How do you think about that kind of situation? What's your rationale?
Like I stated before, I'm very competitive, especially shooting with Andrew.
Right.
So he's, I'm a big boy right now, so he beats me on movement. I try to hustle, but, still not enough. So I have to try to save time wherever I can. So I'm one of those that would risk it.
Gotcha.
You're able to see it when they do when they show you how fast it moves.
Right.
But it really does in quite a bit on that. When we saw it there, it wasn't too bad. So I was able to kind of leave that, like shoot the steel and then shoot the rest of the targets. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't too bad. But sometimes you do have those disappearing targets that literally do disappear right away. So,
right.
If that's the case, I'm like, yeah, no, I have to, shoot the rest of them so I could be ready. But where possible, I definitely will risk it.
All right. Kind of an odd question, I guess. Besides the usual stuff that everybody puts in their range bag to go to a match, right? The magazines and the ammo and your gun and the holster and all that stuff. Is there anything that you absolutely have to take with you in your range bag, and why?
Well, I think for me, it's also pretty standard stuff. I have, for example, something that, I guess not. My daughter gave me a gun cleaning kit for Father's Day, and, that's in my range bag. I take with me all the time. So I guess that's something that's special because, she gave it to me at all. I have 4 kids, and, she's kind of like wanting to get into the same competitive shooting thing. And, she went straight for a gun cleaning kit. So I probably have to say is that.
Very nice. Talk about, before I get to the usual final question, one of the things that we were talking about when we were visiting together at Illinois was talking about, you were showing me how you're sharing your passion with your kids. Talk about how important that is, especially growing up in places and coming from a place where guns are something that you don't share, where you don't, like you said, learning gun safety as a kid in Mexico didn't happen. But you have a chance now to pass on this to your kids, and you're doing it really early, and it's really cool. Talk about how important that is to you and why it's important for parents to do it.
So for me, it's very important to teach my kids about gun safety and teach them about guns because as a kid, I was, if we all look back, we all kind of like looked at, when no one was home, looked around to see what we could find. And now I remember going through my brother's stuff, trying to see what I could find. And I remember when I found my grandma's gun, and I thought it was so cool. And I'm like, the only thing I knew about guns at the time when I was a kid was, from movies and everything.
Right.
So I didn't want to take that route. I don't want to take that route with my kids because pretty much a lot of the accidents that happen is pretty much kids finding guns from their parents, and the parents never talked to them about gun safety, so accidents happen. Mm-hmm. So I took a different approach. All my kids are 10, 9, 7, and 2. So the 3 older ones, since I got into it, I talked to them about it. I showed them. I told them it's not a toy. I told them it's a tool. And I showed them I talked to them about the gun safety rules and how to unload, make it clear and everything. And it just took away that wow factor. Mm-hmm. They're not curious about it. I told them if you ever want to see it, let me know. I'll sit down and I kind of reinforced the rules by letting them tell me what I need to do and the steps to make it clear.
Right.
And, the kids have been great. I take them to the range and teach them to shoot. My oldest can't wait to start competing. I'm not sure in terms about the rules because she's 10. I think she has to be 13. I have to look into that.
12, I believe.
She's awesome. I have to talk to her about that because she's asked me, she's like, when you train, can I train with you doing dry fire? I'm like, definitely. So then I have a picture. I gotta find it, but I have a picture from my wife where I was practicing in the living room, and they're all lined up next to me, trying to like practice, doing reloads, even though they grabbed, like, I think one grabbed the remote, one grabbed, like, I don't even know what they grabbed, but they pretty much grabbed something to simulate, a hand grip.
Right.
Like a hand grip, I mean. Yeah, it's hilarious. I have to find that. But yeah, it's very important to me because, like I said, it teaches them how to be safe. And when they're older, they just know how to use one if they ever need one, if they ever need to use it.
Yep. Nice. That's awesome. So, final question. What is it about IDPA that has got you hooked? Why is it that you keep trying to do it? It's not just trying to beat Andrew, although I'm sure that's part of it. But what is it about IDPA that you enjoy, that you love so much and keeps you doing it and trying to get better?
For me, it's the competitiveness. I just like to compete, and I like to, to be a good shooter, a good, get the number one spot. What I like about IDPA is all the stages that they have. It's just, like I said, it beats standing there shooting a static target. But what I love especially is the people. I think the people are amazing. Like I said, when I first wanted to get into it, I was very intimidated. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Especially like I said, one of my local matches. I went, and it was the second match that I was doing. It was in Wisconsin, and I'm like, oh man, like, I know nobody here. I'm like, how's that going to go down? And it was totally opposite. Everyone was very welcoming. Everybody was helpful. They would ask me, hey, how you doing? Everything's good. Need me help? And that brotherhood, is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely what I like about IDPA. Is the brotherhood, where everybody's just, willing to help and accepting. That's why I try to get other people that, don't shoot to come to a match and see what it's about and, get them to understand it. People don't understand it, so they kind of, cringe when you tell them you're a competitive shooter. They're like, oh my God. They're like, oh my God. They're like, I didn't know you had a competitive shooting. They're like, and you shoot targets, right? I'm like, yes, I shoot paper targets. I shoot cardboard targets.
That's cool. Well, I'm glad you're doing it, and it was great getting to meet you, and I'm so glad that you decided to come on despite having met me, you decided to come on the show anyway. I really do appreciate it, and I'm glad to have you as an adopted Texan, and I hope you guys make a trip down here again, and despite your rainy experience before, and hoping to get up to Illinois and shoot with you guys again next year.
It was a pleasure to be here and be a part of the show, and I'll definitely be out in Texas again, and I'll keep in touch, and hopefully we can do the Texas State Championship next year together, man.
That sounds great. All right, that's all the time we have for today. I want to thank our guest for coming on the show and our sponsors for making all of this possible. Take a moment, if you would, to check out the website, check out our show notes at unloadpodcast.com. We've got lots of interviews with more amazing guests like the one you heard today. Join our Facebook group at unloadpodcast.com/Facebook for all the latest updates and to connect with other fans of the show. And if you'd like to support the show, we sure would appreciate it. Consider becoming a patron at unloadpodcast.com/extra. I've got some full-length interviews and special content available there exclusively for patrons as well. And if you know somebody or you yourself would make an interesting guest for a future episode of Unload and Show Clear, please contact me at lloyd@unloadpodcast.com or click on the contact page on the website and send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Tune in again next time for another episode of Unload and Show Clear.